Hello, 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 hello. Welcome, everyone. My name is LaNeshe White, and I will be the moderator for today's session. So first, I want to tell you a little bit about Strata. Strata is a care coordination and lifestyle management platform that prioritizes emotional well-being for caregivers. Strata plugs into your calendar, schedules your self-care, and then books childcare or elder care of yourself. We take care of all the logistics so that you can get to loving your loved ones faster. Strata was founded by Angelica Jackson in response to realizing that she, as a new mom, and many of the caregivers around her were neglecting self-care and didn't know quite how to get help. So our July Refresh and Reset series is all about helping your family refresh and reset, particularly during this time where we're dealing with a public health crisis and we're dealing with all of these civil injustices. And so the series is focusing on self-care, nutrition, relationships, childcare, co-parenting, caregiving, and more. So again, my name is LaNeshe White. I am a mom of one. I'm also a marketer, a content creator, a cultural producer in Philadelphia, and my brand, nicheholic.com, Working Motherhood, provides tips, tricks, and resources for making parenthood work and managing life as a working parent. And so today's topic is really important to me because I seek to be and help parents to prioritize themselves and prioritize their self-care so that they can take better care of themselves and their families, as well as all their other responsibilities. So before we get started, I want to take note that no one on this panel is a physician or a licensed therapist or a counselor. All of the opinions that we're sharing here today are each of our individual personal experiences and expertise. So I'd like to introduce each of our panelists. The Strata team thinks each and every one of you have a very special perspective on relationships, and that's why we have you here today. So I'll let each of you introduce yourselves and tell everyone the why or the mission behind your platforms and your companies. So let's start with Suzie.
Hey, hi everyone. I'm Suzie. I'm the Director of Operations at Smartsitting. We're a babysitting and nanny agency and a corporate childcare staffing company. And our purpose is to lead society in valuing childcare providers and professionalizing childcare providers so that people understand fair pay and compensation and legal employment and all that good stuff. And so, yeah. That's kind of what we do.
Excellent. Thank you for joining me. We'll go over to Devorah and Cedric. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Uh-oh, you're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, there we go.
Okay, perfect. So first, thanks for having myself and Devorah. My name is Cedric Idudu. I am one of the founders of the Coparent Goals platform. Basically, we created the platform to kind of show and illustrate and infuse the importance of co-parenting. And then we touch on a host of different topics and give we'll give real life examples on our co-parenting journey, the tasks and steps that we actually took to ensure that we're on a copacetic platform in terms of co-parenting our son, Christian Idudu, and Devorah may be able to add additional. So thanks for having me.
Great. Do we have a separate feed for Devorah? I don't see her up here yet.
She may be joining. I think she was having some Wi-Fi issues, but so she's the founder of the platform. And as I mentioned before, we just wanted, we created the platform to kind of give individuals a real life examples of the importance on co-parenting in multiple households and giving relevant examples on what things do and don't work. So we kind of try to give live instances each and every Thursday to walk our viewers through the life and journey of our co-parenting experience. So she may still be having some Wi-Fi issues, but.
Okay. That is fine. So we've been kind of polling our audience and getting questions over the past week or so that they want answered during this panel. And so I'll just throw out some questions. Either one of you can feel free to jump in and answer as you see fit. So first, I'm going to hit you with some stats to respond to. So 20 million Americans will become caregivers this year. 4 million babies will be born, maybe even more with everyone being quarantined. Assuming each new baby has 2 parents, there will be 8 million new parents this year. That makes 1 in 5 employees, or 20% of the workforce, are caregivers. And on average, people spend about $825 a month on caregiving related expenses. So after hearing those statistics, what is your unique perspective on how to reach and provide support for this massive group of people who are parents and caregivers?
I'd be happy to chime in a little bit. When you're dealing with that kind of volume of parents, I think it really comes to sort of wanting there to be a bigger force involved, like having funding, that's directed towards caregiving, whether that's parents or even care providers. And also, right now, I think the biggest platform that actually exists to help families are employers. Some employers are taking the step and, providing childcare as a benefit to their employees in the same way that employees come to expect, ideally healthcare, dental, 401k and in, jobs that have that kind of opportunity. So childcare is very much in line with that, providing, healthcare to a single employee, like doesn't really paint the whole picture, and that's why you have a lot of people that want, they take family plans and things like that. So really kind of folding childcare into the traditional benefits package. I feel like, when we're talking about 8 million parents, that's a lot of employees, right? So employers, could really step up and try to fill the gap a little bit at least.
Cedric, have you had any other either institutions or funds or anything that you've come across that is supporting parents during this time or just in general that have been helpful to you or others in your network?
Not necessarily, but I do see some employers offering small benefits. And for instance, I have a friend that he actually owns his own company, but what they're actually doing is they're finding different care funds and things to offer to their employees. But me specifically, I haven't received any. But to the individual that just spoke, I do think that there are jobs that could offer additional benefits to kind of influence or help from a caregiving perspective. But me personally, I haven't received or heard much of any. So
yeah, I think it is like a lot of large employers, like people that might have like 25,000 employees or something. Whereas, companies that are smaller, they don't have the same access because childcare, it's expensive.
It is. So Fortune 500 companies specifically would be the ones that I would see that would probably offer some of those type of benefits. But to your point, my friend, he owns a smaller business, and to your point, it is very expensive for childcare. So they've been trying to come up and compile certain programs and things. But yeah, I would more so see the Fortune 500 companies
definitely
offering more of that in terms of like the benefit packages and things.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree. And the only other thing that I can really think of is, it's such a weird time with, people not being sure, do they want to send their kids into a group center, right? Because like group childcare is such a big deal right now. Group childcare is a big deal all the time, I should say, but now we're talking about it like because we've leaned on it so hard. So if that's not an option, right, like what do we do, right? Like if
that was actually going to be my next question.
So, in that sense, like those 8 million families, I mean, I think there are going to be a lot of people that are trying to find a nanny share. They've got someone in their building or 2 people in their building that are able to, partner up and have a couple of kids that are similarly aged. You can get like social interaction, and hopefully, you pay your one person better than if they were just caring for one family, but at the same time, like you can defray the cost as it's split across different families. And that's something that I think is being explored in a lot of places right now.
Yeah, as we look at there being people who don't have childcare through their employment and also either can't afford right now or don't feel comfortable right now for that outside childcare, what other, like, how to stay sane in a situation where you are at home working and your children are at home, especially during the summer where it's unstructured versus like virtual learning in the fall. Kind of any stay sane tips from either of you of dealing with that?
Yeah, so I can chime in on that. So I think now is the time to kind of open up your creative measures, right? So for me specifically, and I like to use relevant examples. So what myself and Devorah, what we typically engage in, we come up with different activities for our son to engage in. So more specifically speaking, I think from a tip perspective, it's important to not only allow your children to sit down and watch YouTube and watch different, games and things on TV. I think it's important to do more so arts and crafts things. So kind of working on different levels of creativity, right? So you can come up with different activities. You can create different lessons from your own perspective in terms of things that your children can do. And I know specifically when I have Christian, I may be in the office working, but then I'll give them a task to complete that it will allow me to finish whatever I have to do within 45 to 50 minutes. And then also after that, I think from an extracurricular activity perspective, I mean, try to get super active. I mean, you can go in the backyard, toss the football, play Uno. So I think it's like now is the time for parents to stay sane, to involve physical activities, to kind of release stress, and it also is a good way to tire out your kids. So, I mean, they'll be tired towards the end of the night and then they'll sleep good. So I think it's time to kind of dig into the creative box. But my suggestion would be to come up with different activities on a daily or on a weekly regimen, and then just stick to those specific times.
Hey, what about now?
Yeah, they said you're live.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah,
I don't know how long it'll last. I don't know how long it'll last.
Welcome to the
I said, I don't know how long it's going to last. I don't know what's going on.
Can you hear?
Well, they should be able to see you now.
Okay. I can't see them. I don't see them yet, though.
Can you see us more? Technical difficulties.
But they can't see me?
Oh, we lost her. Hopefully we'll get her back. So yeah, I definitely agree. I find that the funner stuff, the craft stuff, so anything, I mean, and getting messy also, like any chance that I can give my daughter to just make a mess is a chunk of time that I can have. So I know that's the sacrifice, that she can play with the kinetic sand. I can get in 45 minutes of work, and then I'll have to sweep up a lot of sand. Exactly. But that's the compromise.
Exactly.
How old are your kids?
Oh, good question. So my daughter 5. How old is your Cedric?
Christian 7.
7.
Okay.
What about you?
I've got 2, and they're 3 and 1. So I think across the 3 of us, we've got like a pretty good range.
Yeah, we have a good range.
How do we manage 1 to 7-year-olds and work?
Exactly. I love it.
I would love to add just that, with slightly younger kids, the time frame for being able to sort of occupy attention ranges from like about 1 minute to about 19 or 20 minutes, like on a really good stretch. So any outside help that you can get is like really helpful when they're that young. But otherwise, if you don't have it, and, there have been, of course, days where we have, days where we haven't. And on those days where you really are doing it all on your own and you're trying to juggle it, just lowering your work expectations a little bit in those moments, I find to be healthy, because you sort of, and being flexible, you can plan out what you want to accomplish, but you've got to give yourself some grace if you don't get it done. And sometimes that isn't always to the expense of your child, or like having to have that, we all have it, right? That impatient moment. Just let me finish this. Just give me, just for a second, just can't you find anything to do? And trying, it's so hard not to like go there. But sometimes if you can set yourself up earlier on mentally to be like, you know what, I'm going to do what I can. I might have to catch up late at night after these kids go to sleep. I might have to just take an opportunity whenever I get it. And in the meantime, I'm just going to have to accept that there are going to be a lot more interruptions than work in this very moment. I think that at least knowing that and having that in your mind, being flexible, can really set you up to sort of emotionally handle the stress of balancing both of them. Both things sometimes, work and children.
Absolutely. I like to suggest to people to not look at it as balance, as in like equal time to both things, and to look at it as like a fluid journey between what and who needs your attention when. It might be your child today, it might be your job tomorrow, it might be your spouse the next day, it might be some other thing you volunteered to do the next. So I definitely agree with like setting the expectations of what you can really do. So as we talk about like dealing with these moments where things get stressful, like for both of you, how can you tell when you've gotten to a space where you need that self-care, when you've gotten to like the end of your rope, basically? Like what manifests in yourself where you're like, okay, I need a break?
Yeah. So for me, and I don't want to sound like it doesn't happen to me, but for me specifically, what I always tend to do is I work out on a daily basis. And for me, working out, it kind of recalibrates me. So I'm able, like in terms of stress, I have a very, very, very high, I guess, stress tolerance. So as long as I can work out, there's really not much that can stress me out. But if there ever is a time where I do get to the point where I may be extremely overwhelmed, I always take a powwow. So I'll take a 10 or 15 minute break, grab some water, take a deep breath, and just have a pep talk with myself. But I mean, it's almost inevitable not to go through those instances where you may become overwhelmed. But what I try to do is I prioritize, and I have a strict regimen each and every day to work out at a specific time. And that kind of just prepares me to I guess have thick skin throughout the day. So, and then during this time when you do know that, I mean, the schools are closed and all this other stuff, you have to have that mental talk to yourself so that you can stay sane. So working out for me works pretty well.
Yeah. That is, I think, physical activity and just getting yourself out of the moment if you can, like breaking the moment. Sometimes it just kind of builds. You have like, there's an intense thing, you're trying to juggle one thing, another thing is happening, and it all kind of just bubbles up. And, in that moment, just, I think I really resonate with the giving yourself the pep talk, like taking yourself out of the moment just for a second, whatever thing, when it's about to come out of your mouth and it's like not the person that you want to be, and it's not the thing that you want to promote to your children, like from a, how do I handle stress kind of a world, right? So it's like, how do you even do it? So, I mean, that personal pep talk, it's like it's like the words are in my mouth and somehow I just don't let them come out. And instead I try and like just truly take that breath, give myself that mental pep talk of like, just try to think about this from the perspective of this child who is in front of you right now and what they're trying to get from you. And then lead with your empathy, like find your empathy, like remember that child is a person and they need you for almost everything. And they have no other solution typically, so just trying to find that moment to just kind of put yourself in their position and try to come at it from like a totally different angle. So also sometimes it's just abandoning whatever line you were walking, abandon that. It clearly is not working. So like lean into that creativity, like you were saying, and try and like get your mind to do a totally different thing. Like, what's the complete other angle? Sometimes it's becoming a character, like literally just being a different voice or something, like in that moment, taking on a different person and just being that for a second and, you know, kind of confusing your kid a little bit so that they're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What's happening? Oh, you're not mad. You're not mad anymore. You're something else. We'll go with this.
Yeah. And it sounds like since we all have, so I guess the age range in terms of our kids is 1 to 7, there are different levels of communication, right? So for me specifically, whenever I talk to Christian, I'm able to speak to him as if he's an adult. Hey, Christian, can you give me 30 more minutes because I'm trying to finish up something. I'm trying to finish up a particular task. But did you remember to do X, Y, and Z? So then I'll kind of circumvent and remind him that, hey, there's a few chores and things that you need to finish. So give me about 30 or 45 minutes to finish what I have to. And then once I finish that, I may finish early. Then we can go ahead and go outside and play. So I typically try to approach it from a explanation standpoint, but making sure that I'm clear and concise and just letting him know that, hey, Daddy has to finish a task, and then once I finish that task, we'll have as much fun as you want. So to your point, it's going into a different character, but still making sure that you're giving it to your child, depending on the age range, because we're from 1 year old to 7, but just explaining to them that there's a task at hand that needs to be completed from your end. And once that's done, then they can have your full undivided attention. So I try all different types of things, but the most effective is just talking to him like he's a teenager, and he's pretty receptive of it. So that works really well.
Yeah, with younger kids, I would say one of the things that has been somewhat helpful has been giving them a visual cue. So like a child that doesn't have a concept of time, like will need something else to be like, right, like I'm done. So we were like, find something. So I have like a blue sweatband or something from like a Halloween costume. And I just put it on my head and I sit there and I look like a crazy person. But you know, I tell my 3-year-old, like, hey, when you see this ridiculous sweatband on Mama's head, she's working. And when that sweatband comes off, Mama can play or Mama can talk again. So that helps with like the younger kids, kind of give them a sense of what phase you're in the moment. Yeah,
that's a good idea. Yeah.
I love that. I love both of those like ways of handling based on the age. That's great. So for Cedric specifically, what are some tenets of a healthy co-parenting relationship, and in what ways, if any, have you had to like add or adjust kind of the basis of that based on pandemic, civil uprising, the world?
So for me for my situation, I would say communication. I think that's the core key to a healthy co-parenting relationship, especially due to the unforeseen circumstances that are transpiring right now. I think that open line of communication is extremely invaluable, and it's important, not only from what's my child up to, what's my child going to be doing if they're at each other's, or if they're at one house versus the other house. But I think keeping that open mind of communication just allows you both to know the mental health and the activities and interactions that your child may be pursuing when they're at either one of your homes. So I think that open line of communication creates a copacetic platform in terms of how the co-parenting relationship goes, especially during a time like this. So I definitely weigh heavily on that.
Gotcha. So as we talk about self-care and wellness, what are some ways that you could suggest for other parents and caregivers to integrate more self-care into their lives? Like actual practical things, like you say you have, I know you mentioned that you have your same time every day. So are you putting that in your calendar? How are you communicating that time being yours to your child, your co-parent, your job, like any other things? Kind of like really any kind of concrete ways you can help people to integrate self-care regularly?
I would say, I have sticky notes. I'm not sure if you all can see it, but I have sticky notes all over my office. So, and what I typically do is my day is planned out every single day. And the gym, and I keep falling back on the gym, but the gym is I mean, it's important to me. And I think in terms of self-care, co-parents and individuals have to sit back and ask themselves, what do they need to keep a level of sanity, and create a top 5 list. And even if you create a top 10 list, pick 5 things from that particular list, and then just make sure that you're extremely adamant in terms of sticking to those things. My thing is, I mean, having a 10 or 15 minute breather, going to the gym, making sure I'm eating, making sure I have my protein shakes, and then making sure I do like a little bit of reading from time to time. So as long as I'm engaged in any 5 of those things on a daily basis, for me specifically, it increases my awareness, and it allows me to kind of keep my mental sanity. So I would definitely say my recommendation would be for individuals to write things down, figure out what they need in terms of being able to stay fueled and stay positive each and every day.
Yeah, I would add to that too. I think that's really great advice, and a lot of what you've said actually, even just in the earlier question too, about just communication. I mean, I think there's no real way to integrate self-care without communicating with your partner if you have one, right? And really telling them what you need, not being afraid to ask for help. Sometimes we don't ask for help. We just go and we do, and we don't take the moment to really stop and say, hey, like, I could use a little bit of help in order to get just a little bit of time for myself. I don't necessarily have to finish working and go straight to cooking dinner and straight to getting the kids, ready for whatever their activity is or their bedtimes. Like, maybe somewhere in there's a break that I'm not accounting for. And sometimes when you're in it, you can't see it. So can this person, if you've got someone in your life that is there for you, then having them to lean on and really, being vocal about your needs. And I also really resonate with, just having a few things in your day that are non-negotiable.
Yeah.
That gym time that makes so much sense to me. And there was a time when that was my thing. It's not right now. Maybe again at some point. But right now, my thing is my bedtime's not negotiable. That sounds like, kind of boring, and honestly, it really is. But at 9:30, my brain is off. I'm done thinking for the day. If there's work to be done, it's not going to be done past 9:30. There's a logistical conversation that has to happen about like family planning things or anything that the family is doing. I am not starting to think about it at 9:30. At 9:30, I'm done thinking about all of the things. So at 9:30, I close my laptop if it's open, my phone goes on the charger, and I start like my wind down bedtime routine. And I am just taking the time to make sure that I get myself into bed at a time that gives me enough rest so that I can start the day, with the energy that I want.
Yeah.
I love that. Speaking of kind of routines, if both of you can kind of pull out anything that's part of either your morning or night routine or both that you feel like helps set you up for success in kind of all of your areas, working, parenting, everything. Any like tenets of your morning setup or your evening that like help with that?
I'm happy to share just one thing that I've been doing. And it's just writing everything down. First thing in the morning, I've got one notebook, and if you try to make sense of it, you never could. I mean, you've got meal plans on one side and shopping lists on the other side, and what I think about, the world, just one paragraph after like what my child ate and how many dirty diapers he had. I mean, it's just, it's everything. But what it essentially is just a brain dump. First thing in the morning, it's everything that's already like, I wake up and my brain just turns on. I'm starting to already want to do. But if I just start doing, I don't necessarily do things with intention, right? So like trying to focus myself so that I am doing things with intention and working on the things that really need my time right now, as opposed to the things that just keep me busy. And the way that I really like get that energy out of here, first thing in the morning is just to put it all down on paper. And I commit to writing at least 3 pages. They're not big pages. They're, this size, if you can see it, like that size paper. And I just, some days I'm not feeling it, I write a lot bigger. Some days I'm really into it. I write a lot smaller, but I just give myself that 15 to 20 minutes to get things out of here and onto the page.
Gotcha. Anything with your like night or morning routine that like sets you up for success?
For me, what I do, I mean, it's pretty consistent to what she just mentioned as well. But at nighttime, what I like to do is look at my Outlook to see what all I have planned. And as I mentioned before, there are some instances where I like to work out at 5 or 6 a.m. But if I have a meeting at 8, then I have a huge gap between, say, 9 to 12. Then I'll fit in like my fitness regimen during that time. But for me, it's all about pre-planning. So I think there's a famous saying, I mean, so basically, if you don't plan, then you fail. I just like to plan ahead, and I'll typically do it a day or two in advance. And then if I find that I have inserted time that I can allot, like additional things, I'll just insert some of those things that I'll need to do, or one of the 5 things that I need to do to keep sane. So, I just like to pre-plan and then just look at my day ahead of time. So that really works for me. And I just think about it at night and wake up and it's still fresh on my mind. So.
Gotcha. I like both of your varying like levels of planning. You're like morning, I'm setting up for the day. You're looking at it ahead. I'm probably looking at I don't have like set self-care times for myself. Usually I'll look at the week ahead at the beginning of the week and see like what kind of week it's going to be. If it's going to be a crazy one. And then at that point, I will pick out the times where I'm like, okay, these are my blocks of time that I am going to just nap or read my audiobook or rest, like things that and setting those in stone so that they don't get trampled on by other responsibilities as like the week goes on and things get crazier, most likely. So for both of you, if you had like a self-care goal that like you aren't accomplishing right now, but if you had a dream of like a level of self-care that is like ideal for you, what would be a part of your like ideal self-care goals if there were like no obstacles to it?
That's a great question. I'll definitely go first on that one. So for me specifically, I would say an ideal would wake up to a wonderful breakfast, and then followed by a wonderful massage. And then after that, maybe taking some time to kind of just sit on the beach, listen to the ocean and waves, and then go to the gym and work out and some type of outdoor fitness type of gym activity. And then just, sit by the pool and read. That would be a wonderful, consistent daily self-care type of regimen. But I don't know how realistically that is.
You gotta have goals, and you can work towards them.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that and want just the same. Can I just sign up for everything? Because I don't think I have a better answer. I think maybe it could, partially be. I'm sure it's partially just who you are as a person, partially like the ages of your kids. But when you have really little kids, I find it really hard to even imagine outside of like the moment. I have a really hard time with that, and I think that, in terms of a realistic, achievable self-care goal for me, would just be to have any more of it on my mind, really give myself the space to have it, because when the kids are this little and this needy, I think it's a really hard moment to try and find the space. So, but if it was, an opportunity like to sit on a beach, to listen to the waves, it's like my brain can't even cross over to that. Like I can't even imagine that right now. And I've got to say, maybe it's just my kids' ages or something, but yeah, having the time to just relax and read and, be outside, have a little bit of physical touch, like, a massage or something to sort of just like feel present, right, in your moment. That just sounds lovely.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, we can only hope that we can get at least a little bit close to there at some point soon. If it's not every day, at least every once in a while. Once a quarter. Can we make that happen once a quarter? For
once a year at this point, but yes.
Yeah, that's a goal.
Yeah. I mean, with 1 and 3, as they age, like it'll get easier in that regard as they can like do other things for themselves. I feel for you. I do. So speaking of like things to help us, and we know that Strata is using, like Angelica is using tech to help these problems for caregivers. Like, are there any other platforms or things that you use that help you with self-care, with managing being a caregiver?
Specifically with self-care, let me try and think, make sure that I don't leave out anything that I am using. I think in terms of just like food and diet and stuff like that, like taking a look at self-care through that lens. There are a couple of little apps that I use. Like I use like MyFitnessPal to just track my, like, so if I'm doing like a particular food thing, I'll use it to sort of see what my meals are looking like and things like that. And I definitely lean on, I wouldn't say they're apps necessarily, but, I lean on like online communities, when I'm, trying to stick with like a certain kind of, food regimen or something where I'm like really, right now I'm trying to cut out like all sugar, for example, like trying to like, try to not, lean on the pizza and brownies because the pandemic's going to be over in 2 weeks, except it's not. And it's, for months, I was like, this will be over in 2 weeks. So brownies and pizza again. And now I'm, trying to be a little bit more realistic, like, oh, maybe that's not the best thing. So yeah, so leaning on your online communities and things like that. But I would certainly love a wellness app that would, connect all of those things for me and sort of remind me to be better to myself. I don't have that right now.
Yeah. I would say, not to copy, but to piggyback. I think the food eating and the food regimen, something that I like to do is at least get out in the backyard and barbecue at least 2 or 3 times a month. For me, it's therapeutic for me to get back out there and cook like a nice piece of salmon or some type of exotic fish. It's not only being able to go back there and cook, but for me, I feel a lot healthier from a self-care perspective when I'm able to cook my own food. I know what ingredients I'm actually putting in my food. So I find it when I grill asparagus and meats and just cook my own food, it allows me to think a lot better. And then I'm able to function, and my productivity rate throughout the week is a lot better as well. So that's something that I actually have on my regimen to do, like throughout the week and throughout the month time frame.
Gotcha. Yeah. So about a couple weeks ago, after I was like, okay, I need to like get it together. Pandemic's not ending anytime soon. I pulled my Fitbit back out the drawer. So now I'm using that to help me, like reminding me to get up and move, tracking my water. Like that's one of my goals right now is water intake. So I'm trying to like utilize this to make sure I gotta get a big check over there.
Yeah.
Make sure I'm getting my water and make sure that I'm at least like getting the requisite steps or getting up and moving around, because it's hard. It is hard, like with everything being on the computer now. Like you don't even have a commute to work. Like you don't even have those steps that you take right now.
Yeah.
So it's difficult, but definitely anything that can help remind you to do that and to make things better is definitely good.
Definitely.
So we talked about employers as far as providing childcare to support caregivers. But is there anything that you ever wanted or received from an employer that helped with your mental health? Like any policies that an employer had in place that helped you feel like that you could prioritize your mental health or helped you prioritize your mental health? And if you never had that, what are some things you would have liked them to do?
So I guess I can answer from 2 perspectives. So for my specific employer, I learned that they do provide coverage in terms of you being able to see or seek out any type of mental health support. I've never had to, find a specialist that I could, talk to from a mental health perspective. But what I do like, and I think there's a correlation between what my job offers. So they allow me to work from home. They did 2 days out of a week. And for me, sometimes you can get stuck into a consistent regimen where you sometimes just go through things that are regimented, but you don't really go through and think things through in terms of like what you need to kind of make sure that your mental capacity is in a positive state. So what my job offered is they gave us the opportunities. They said, hey, if you guys want to take Fridays off and work from home, you can do that. And for me, it allowed me, and I keep going back to the word of recalibrating, because sometimes you can go and go and go. And I like to give the example of sometimes you can be so tired and you don't know how tired you are until you sit down and you doze off and you're like, wow, I was tired. So that's a correlation from when I'm at work. Get up every day, work out, go into the office and leave the office at 5 p.m. It becomes so regimented. Sometimes you don't know that your mind is being overworked and you're kind of missing what you need to ensure that your mental mindset is right. So my job offered us to work from home 2 days out of a week. And in my opinion, I think that helped with my mental sanity, because instead of getting up and having to rush, and then sometimes you have that anxiety because you have to get through traffic. And if it's raining, you're like, oh my goodness, it's probably going to be a wreck. I may be late. You can wake up on a Friday and you just go straight to your office and you work, and you're a lot more relaxed and calm. So I could really appreciate that from my job perspective, because it helped me kind of recalibrate. And then I'm not as, I guess my anxiety is not as high because I'm able to sit from my home office and work from home, and it's a lot more relaxing. So I guess I answered it both. They do offer mental support in terms of if you need to see someone, but then they also give you that time to kind of recalibrate in your own home office. And for me, that helps out a lot.
So I haven't worked in another office. So my last office that I worked in that wasn't Smartsitting was 10 years ago. It's been a long time. So back then, when I was just a little gal, and I don't think that there were really any services that were widely, talked about or circulated. So if you were having a hard day, you kind of just had to talk to your supervisor. And, I don't know that, they might say like, go take the afternoon or something, but there wasn't necessarily like this push for, providing resources. I just don't think that that's what was happening a decade ago. I think that's a little bit more hopefully where things are going now. So being on the employee side, you just kind of pushed through, and you sort of, if you needed something, you figured it out on your own. As an employer now, we try, for our administrative staff at our company, we are trying to, first of all, we've had work from home days for a long time too. And I completely agree with Cedric that, that is hugely helpful, just to be able to throw in your laundry. I mean, on a Monday, it's so nice, as opposed to having to, get everything. Because by the time Saturday, Sunday rolls around, like what rest can you really have? Monday to Friday, you're just going. Then Saturday and Sunday, you're just doing other things that get left to the weekend that you don't have time to do during the work week, because work week tends to be all about work. So we've done the work from home thing a lot, and it's been great. I think people really love that. We also have flexibility to take remote days if you want them, and we write that into everyone's employment agreement. It's like you get a certain number of remote days that you can take in addition to your regular remote days, and you can take them when you want them, and that they don't typically impact, your work. If you can do it, you're with a computer, you can get it done. So I know that we've had moments where people just needed a little bit of time, and we try and encourage people not to overwork, like not to burn out, go handle the thing, take the appointment in the middle of the day, like take off the day, take half the day, like just go and take care of the things. Don't put all of the doctor's appointments to, the end of the year and like just do it. Like we try and remind people that, at least our philosophy has been that like your work is supposed to support your life, right? Your life is not entirely just your work. So as an employer, that's been like a core value really that we've tried to drive into everyone's mind. If there is too much going on, like if you feel like you're going to crack under pressure because you've got so much to do and you don't know how you're supposed to do it and still take care of yourself, then something about the setup is wrong. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. You might need help, and the role might need to be changed, or the responsibilities might need to be redistributed, or something needs to happen in order to give you the ability to do your work well and not just be drowning, right? So I think it always comes down to communication, right? Like, we just try to show that, I try to show that, like, hey guys, you know what? I've got my kids. You might not hear back from me for an hour.
Yeah.
You might not hear back from me. You need me? Text me. Like, I'm a human, and I have human things outside of work, and I imagine you're a human too, and you have human things outside of work. So, like, let's be humans together and respect that sometimes we have unrelated things that we need to do, Yeah. And I think it's really good.
Something else that I've noticed as well that helps with my mental sanity is being able to understand that you're human. And to your point, Angelica, right?
Oh, that's Suzie.
Oh, Suzie. Okay, sorry. Yeah. So to Suzie's point, understanding that you are one person, and on top of that, having this efficiency to be able to delegate. And when I'm working from home, I'm able to literally look at my whiteboard and some of the tasks and things that I've tagged for myself on a personal level outside of whatever my career is. I'm able to delegate. So now I'm able to find, and now individuals somewhere reach out to me, and I'm able to kind of negate or even accept some of the individuals that I feel like can carry out some tasks that I was, I guess, busy doing on my own. So to help with my mental mindset, I think the importance of being able to delegate and being comfortable in terms of assigning tasks to other individuals to help you carry them out, even if it's a simple text message or email that needs to be sent out. Having the efficiency and having the confidence to delegate different tasks and deliverables out, I think it indirectly takes and alleviates you from being stressed, because I could have 15 small tasks that I have to do, and I can delegate 10 of those out, and then I could actually be a lot more at ease, and my anxiety would be a lot less. So that's why I think, to piggyback to your comment, it's important that you have time to yourself, and you realize you're only one person, and you separate the personal from the business, and then also tag different delegations to those deliverables that you have.
Yeah. And I would say delegating across the board, delegating to your partner, delegating to other people that work with you, delegating even your children. I mean, something like clearing the table, like
exactly.
She can do that. Like doing anything that you can offload, like it's okay. You are one person. And if there is another person,
you're right.
There's another person that you can ask to do that task to make your load lighter and to make your life happier and healthier, like definitely do it. Delegating across the board is definitely a thing that I have learned that is important in that work. Do you find yourselves, or how do you find yourselves instilling tenets of self-care in your children? Is there any way that you are trying to start to develop their self-care practices and knowing that self-care is something important for their lives?
Yeah. So something that I typically do, and Christian and I, we do it consistently. So I've created some affirmations for Christian on a daily basis. And so to piggyback, part of the delegation, he, on top of his self-affirmations each day, I have a sticky note. There's maybe like 4 or 5 different sticky notes, and they're on this little arts and crafts thing that him and I made. And it's like they have the little clothespins on the board, and each clothespin contains a different level of sticky notes, like something similar to this. So what Christian and I did was I wrote down 4 or 5 different phrases. So each morning he wakes up, he says, "I am king, I am strong, I can do anything I want to do."
Yeah.
And I forgot the other one, but each and every day, and I mean, if I called him right now and I'll ask him what the 4 or 5 is, he'll regurgitate them like second nature, but he knows them. So to build up his confidence, what I just do is, and I'm a stickler of repetition helps with confidence. So each and every day he wakes up and he'll say his 4 or 5 affirmations. And after he does his 4 or 5 affirmations, he'll make his bed, he'll go brush his teeth, and then he'll empty out the trash. And for me, that builds up a level of confidence, and it helps with his self-care because it creates a high level of confidence at an early age. And there's even times where I think one of them is I'm patient or something like that. But there's even times where I'm driving and I'm like, man, this traffic is ridiculous. And he'll say, Daddy, remember, you have to be patient.
They always do that.
Yeah, so he'll use some of his affirmations that I'm teaching him and tell me, Daddy, remember, you have to be patient. And or if he may see me being a little frustrated, like if I'm in a store or something, he'll say, Daddy, remember, you have to be patient and we'll get it done. So those are some of the things that we've been doing for a long time now, and they're really working because he's able to tell me now some of his affirmations. So I'm like, okay, now it's sticking. So that's something that I do to build his confidence, his self-care, and just his overall mental at an early age. And I think it's working well. So yeah.
That's great. I'm going to do that. I'm going to write some affirmations down for my kiddos.
I've been wanting to, and I haven't. I need to implement it.
It works so well.
They're
So
really
now I just have to kind of create a few to say he'll start paying bills, and then maybe he'll kind of start working. But now it's like when he does his task, because he sees me working a lot and cleaning up. But when he goes to his mother's house, she'll tell me that he's emptying out the trash, or I'll call him and he'll be like, Daddy, I have to call you back. I'm sweeping. And I'm like, okay. So now some of the actions and things that I have him doing here, so it became a set regimen that now when he's in my house, he does it when he's at his Nana's house. So, I think it's working pretty well, but it was an arts and craft visual board that we created. I added some little wooden clothing hangers, and we just kind of created like an affirmation board, and it works really well.
That's awesome.
I love that. And he's going to take that into adulthood. Like that when he gets his first place alone, he's already going to have that instilled in him on how to take care of his space and take care of his self. That's awesome.
Exactly.
So awesome.
Yeah.
So magically.
Go ahead. No, it's fine. I was just going to say, with the age of my kids, the thing that we're really working on from like a self-care standpoint is just managing emotions, right? Like, and how you deal with that at the younger age, it's having all those big feelings and not being really sure how to do, what to do with them. And it manifests itself in, the typical tantrums and, all that stuff that you can expect from toddler to, preschool kid age. So we just try and breathe, remember, to try and show empathy and really listen, and then, try and give them the words to talk about their emotions. I feel like that's kind of the level of self-care that we can provide, that we can sort of educate a 3-year-old on, right? It's like, be aware of your emotions, be aware of your feelings, like think about why you're feeling this way or that way. And, how can you get from like this level to like a calm, like find your calm and peace. We sing a lot of songs.
I think that's good. The songs, it helps it stick into their minds. So we're actually we have about 7 minutes left. Before we wrap up, I want to give you each a chance to remind everyone about your brands and your companies. And if you have anything specific coming up with your brands that you want to share, tell the people where to follow you, where to find you, all that good stuff.
Okay. So again, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on your platform. I was in representation of Devorah and myself today. We have a platform called the Coparent Goals, and it's at the Coparent Goals on Instagram. And what we typically do on the platform, or the overall mission and scope, we want to give other individuals that may or may not be going through a co-parenting situation the firsthand live experience on the trials and tribulations that myself and Devorah encountered, some of the steps that we took to get to a copacetic relationship today, which creates a better environment for raising our son. So we talk about real life situations that are currently transpiring today. We talk about things that may or may not influence a healthy co-parenting relationship, and we just give you the raw and uncut. And then we also use the platform for individuals to log in every Thursday, and we go live at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we allow our viewers to chime in, ask questions, and we also have other individuals that support us in terms of coming up with different topics. Sometimes our viewers send us topics and questions, fantastic questions for us to answer. So We want to continue to grow the platform. We want to continue to provide exposure and kind of break that stigma of broken homes and just show how healthy it can be if you develop a fantastic co-parenting relationship and platform. And at the end of the day, it's for the betterment of your child. So yeah, that's about it.
Great. Suzie?
That's awesome. You guys are so great. That's such a great platform. I just think it's such a great thing to be providing to families. So yeah, I'm with Smartsitting, and we are a babysitting and nanny agency that's based in New York, and we serve the surrounding area, and we also work with companies to provide corporate staffing solutions, or corporate childcare staffing solutions. So, educating employers on what kind of offerings they can give to their employees, and sort of helping them navigate, how to set those programs up and implement them. And our goal really is to, make sure that childcare professionals are treated like the professionals that they are, so that they're being paid on the books, they're being paid an appropriate wage for the work that they're doing, and that they have access to all the benefits that they should have access to as actual employees, not as people who are just, taking jobs that are not being, they're not above board. And typically when they're not above board, the compensation isn't fair. And there's, if you're working 60 hours a week and you're not making overtime, and we're really trying to advocate for, care providers to understand that they are working a real job, and that real job comes with, real responsibility, and it should be treated in the same way that you would treat a corporate job. You should have all of the same protections legally that you would, if you were working in an office, and those lines get really blurry. So we exist to sort of educate parents, educate nannies, babysitters, educate employers, and we ourselves provide an employment solution for families and companies if they don't want to take the employment on themselves. So yeah, a little bit about that.
Excellent.
And you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook, or just at Smartsitting.
Excellent.
That's awesome.
Two very awesome resources that I hope the audience will go and find and utilize. Again, my name is LaNeshe. My website is nicheholic.com. I'm at nicheholic on all the places. My brand Working Motherhood is about managing working parenthood. And if you're here, you probably already follow Strata, but if you don't, follow Strata on Instagram and Twitter. Look, Angelica, right with the pop-ups. Get to @Join Strata on Instagram and Twitter and follow along as the product develops and we provide more resources. And we have, I think, one more week of the July Rest and Refresh series. So tune into that. I want to thank you both so much for being here. This is a great conversation. I'm happy to have digitally met you.
Thank you.
And wishing you all and our audience a great rest of the day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for having us.
Have